Welcome, everyone. I am Jeffrey Goodman, Director of Marketing and Development for the YMCA of Northwest Louisiana. We are here for Shreveport-Bossier, my city, my community, my home. Today's guest is Logan Lewis, who I was just telling him he's a bit of a Renaissance man. He's got a lot going on, so let's get in there and talk about what's happening in the world of Logan Lewis.
Well, thanks. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, Logan, and if I make mistakes on details, just correct, but on February 1st, I believe, of this year, you became the new executive director of River Revel, Inc. River Revel, Inc. is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that brings annual events to Northwest Louisiana, including River Revel, CORK, the Shreveport Farmers Market, and Shreveport BREW. Talk to me about the Revel. Why is this festival important for our community? What makes it great? And how will it be even better in the years to come?
The full pitch.
There you go.
Yeah, all your facts are correct. You hit them all on the head.
Awesome.
I don't know if I could have said it any better myself. So I did take over in February, and the Revel is it is a lot of different things to different people. But essentially most people focus on the 9-day festival itself. And I believe it's important for our community to increase our quality of life, to expose people to art. I mean, in our mission statement, it says that, it's primarily education focused, a celebration of the arts. And we do that in many different ways for people of all ages and all types. And I think that to be able to have this festival, which is longer running than many other festivals in our state, it's one of the longest running.
Longer running than you've been alive.
That's correct. Just barely. But yes, that's it is, and it's had its ups and downs. It's been through many phases over the years. It's been in different locations. Eventually, the city of Shreveport, felt the need to develop a space for festivals like ours and like the Good Times Roll Festival and others who have been around for a while. So they created Festival Plaza to house our functions. And so we're really blessed to be in the space that we're in. My office is in Festival Plaza at the Rail Depot. We work very closely with our Shreveport Public Assembly and Recreation Department. I like being in downtown. It kind of, in 2022, it used to be that was where everybody needed to be to work, but because of just sort of the sprawl of our city, it almost feels like being a renegade, and it's like downtown against the rest of the city. And so we kind of have a ragtag band of people that are like-minded, and we're all, trying to find ways to draw people to come back down there. And so, the Revel itself is been through, I think, 4 directors now. And I've learned a lot since starting. I took the first, 2 or 3 months just meeting with 2 or 3 people a day and listening and asking a lot of questions and trying to find or diagnose where the Revel was at. And I think that things some sort of themes started to rise to the top, and become more common. And some of those being that, the people who were involved with it felt like we needed to take a fresh perspective or change a little bit, and also that we still needed to, have our core values, but also be a little bit more eyes wide open about who our community is and what they want. And so
talk to me a little bit about what those core values are, and talk to me a little bit about what that means, the fresh perspective.
Well, so I mean, to me, just growing up in North Louisiana and always being aware or attending, what's happening at the Revel, I do think that tradition is important, and I think that there are some things that the Revel itself is kind of inevitable. Like, people know it's going to come, it's going to happen, and so there's sort of a comfort in that it continues to march on, and that there's at least a level of expectation about maybe the quality of the artists that we are able to draw. The relationships that have been built over the years. I hear stories from time to time where, there's an artist that was recruited by one of the former executive directors, and she's been coming now for the last 30 years and developed relationships with some pretty important people in our community, so much so that now she doesn't stay in hotels when she comes to the Revel. She stays at their house, and and Shreveport has a very special place for a lot of those artists because of the time spent here and all the relationships that they've built and the art that they've sold. But at the same time, some of those things that become expected can also run the risk of becoming sort of just rote, and it happens over and over, and it's the same thing, or it gets stale. And that's one of the things that I heard a lot. And I think that it's not that difficult to be able to do both things, be fresh, but also have some things you expect. And it's in the subtle changes that we can make. Maybe it's the site, or just in the process or the policies that we have, the way that we present the Revel from a marketing standpoint goes a long way towards people's expectations, even if what we were going to do would be the same either way. And so, my time at the Independence Bowl has taught me that greatly, and about exactly how you frame a conversation, about yourself and to the community, and what people here come to expect based on, that campaign or that plan, or how you draw it up. What's the look, the feel, and things like that. So, I've been in some type of live event stuff or business my whole life. I think I told you the story. I was 16 years old. I booked my first show. I didn't tell my parents. Signed a contract for I think it was $1,000 maybe for this band to come from California and play in Ruston. And I called the city and got the downtown park reserved, got the paperwork to pay taxes. We lifted some construction fencing from my friend's dad's business and set up, down there, and we hired sound, and we got, we took money, and my parents showed up. They were shocked that we were taking money, and they're like, who's in charge of all this? And we are, we made enough money to pay the band. Now we're making money. And they were just like, I knew they would never let me do it if I asked. So we just did it. And ever since then, I've been, sort of in, either it's playing music or, being around it. I'm a huge fan of the music part of the arts. This is it's my baby. It's my favorite thing. And so if I'm not, playing music, I spend time watching other people do that. And so this, I took a weird path to get here, going through sports and learned a lot about how to put on an organized event through working at university or working at the Independence Bowl. And now I finally landed here on the art side of it, and I think that, it was easy to see coming in from the outside, not having just, continually done this year over year over year. And sometimes when that just happens for anybody, when you come in from the outside and people say, we do this, this, and this, and they've never just asked this simple question, well, why? Why are we doing it this way? And that's kind of the way I looked at it, as sort of just trying to be as naive and newborn as possible, so that we could maybe address things from a different perspective. And I'm excited about some of the things that we've been able to develop because of asking those questions. And I think that people in our community will also be excited about that as well.
And I know we're 4 months from, a little over 4 months from the time you first started, and we're, 3, 4, 5 months from the actual festival of this year. Can you talk a little, I'm sure you're still fine-tuning what some of those changes or some of those new aspects are, but can you give us some sense of
Sure.
maybe what will feel different, look different, sound different at the 2022 Revel?
Yes, long term, there are big picture things that I would like to do. When I was, I mentioned I was at the Independence Bowl before, and I don't know if it was ever really certainly was never part of my job description, but I did all the graphics for all the signage that we had in the stadium, and that was not a skill that I came into the Independence Bowl with. I didn't know how to use Adobe Suite, and I certainly didn't know how to be a visual artist on a computer. But I picked that skill up through practice, and so I would like to see the Revel have sort of an overhaul, at least in the way that we our site looks, from a signage standpoint, more uniform signage, less hodgepodge things. But those aren't, you can't just like throw everything out and start over. It's a pretty hefty expense, so it'll take several years to get there. And then maybe some of the way we lay the site out, I would like to see us change. We used to go all the way down to Riverview Park, or what is it? Theater. No, Theater. There's it's Riverview. It's got to be Riverview Park. It's where the outside stage is.
Okay.
On the river there.
Yeah.
And they've shrunk it down just to Festival Plaza proper. Maybe I'd like to see us expand just a little bit more. There were some elements of the past that I would like to see us bring back, and we can't do that with our current setup. But we can't do everything, in 8 months. And so, I told myself in the very beginning I didn't want to bite off more than I felt like we could chew, and I think we've reached that point where I have to focus only on what we want to do now and not. I gotta stop. It's hard for me to not just generate ideas. I love doing that, and my friends, my really good friends that were my coworkers that Invincible know this about me, that I would just clap my hands and walk in the office and go, I have an idea, and they're like, there's more work to do, more work for us, but so this year there are a couple things, and I don't really mind, talking about them, even though we haven't necessarily fully press released them out, just because they're, being honest, this is our intention, right? And so it's not I don't think anybody's going to come back and be like, well, on this podcast, you said, our intention for some of them, and some of them are signed and it's going to happen. But, I think the first one that comes to mind that's the biggest change is we signed a partnership with a company called Tap It and adding RFID wristbands payment option to our coupon structure. So, we'll still sell coupons, but I think we're going to split that between coupons are cash only, no refunds, and wristbands are card only, and we will actually refund the ones you don't use if you use a wristband. And you can't do that with coupons. It's impossible. If you've got two people selling coupons in a booth and one turns the other way, somebody could rip 6, pages of coupons out of their book and then put them in their pocket, then come back and return them later. And now you've got one volunteer who looks bad because it looks like they stole, and you have another one who's actually stealing. It's a physical currency that invites too much fraud. But with the wristband technology, and it's a lot of people don't really know what they hear, they don't know, or they see it and they're like, it's becoming more prevalent. So I think that it won't be too far-fetched for the Rebel to go this direction. You see Splash Kingdom and Shreve Island, my son's school did it for field day. They had these wristbands. It's got a small chip in the wristband that is not storing personal information. It has its own account number. And so what you would do when you come to the booth is you would pay with the card, and we have these mobile devices that Tap It brings, and we put in there that this person just paid $40 or 40 coupons, and they put that in and they tap it to that RFID. That RFID chip now recognizes I've got 40, right? And that device that or actually it's the other way around. The device through the internet has got a record that this particular wristband has 40 coupons.
And so I go buy a turkey leg and I just show my wristband.
Yeah, and you would hit the device, that they have, right? And it's $5, whatever it is, or 5 coupons, and you just tap the device and you're paid. It makes it easy. You don't have to keep up with a bunch of coupons. You could buy, you could put money on several wristbands and hand them to your kids and let them run off, and they don't have to keep up with the paper coupons. You can come back and use it every day throughout the festival. And the way that we are going to execute this is because there's a lot of options. We could just keep the money at the end, which is what we do with coupons now. And I'm sure there are some people in our camp that would rather just keep the money. But I've always been of the mind that we should be customer first. We should be thinking about what do people, what did they experience from the time they leave their doorstep to the time they return, and so, and how can we make that experience the best experience? And so, I went to Festival International and I met their executive director, and he drove me around in his golf cart and showed me their operation where they do this exact same thing. And this is the only type of payment that they take, and he said, yeah, after the festival's over, we refund people's money. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So I did it. I went and I put $50 on the wristband, and I purposely didn't spend all of it because I wanted to see how that worked. And sure enough, I didn't have to do anything. Afterwards, they refunded all but $5 of that, the money that I didn't spend. And the little fee was where it just clicked for me. It's like, oh, okay, this is how they pay for each wristband, and people put more money on. If they have more money on it, you're allowed to spend more, and it's better for them, better for the fans. It becomes easy, for people to do. And maybe they intend to come back and something happens and they can't, and they don't have to go online and request a refund or anything like that. We're just going to take care of it for them. And I think that once people get used to the ease of doing it, it will be their favorite thing. I think they're going to love it, And I'm excited about the Revel, sort of really taking a dive in this, because other people have in the community, other businesses or events, but not fully into the technology that with all the devices and all these wristbands and potential to sponsor and there's so much to it, and it's Austin City Limits does. Every other festival has this type of payment thing. So to bring it to Shreveport and have the Revel sort of lead the charge on that, I'm really excited about.
So tell me, I'm going to jump in for a sec. I'm curious, this isn't one of my questions, but listening to you talk, tell me your first Revel memory. Tell me your earliest Revel memory, and tell me your favorite Revel memory or experience so far in your life.
So if I came to the Revel when I was young, it was from Ruston, because I grew up there, and I think the earliest memory I have would probably be one that a lot of people would share, and that's seeing trout fishing in America. They're kind of like the staple. They're not with us this year. The schedule did not work out, but
are we Old Side or Festival Plaza?
I don't think Plaza had been built yet. Yeah, it was an Old Side just in downtown.
Along the river.
Along the river, yeah. And then my favorite Revel memory, well, last year before I became the director, I actually played the Revel for the first time. So that'd probably be my favorite one. We opened up for Samantha Fish, who I'm a huge fan of. She's a great guitar player. And I brought in because my guys that play with me, they kind of rotate, and I got a bunch of different people that I play with, and so I brought in sort of a hired gun guitar player that is like my ace in the hole and way better than I am, and so we played 40-minute set, and just it was all our best stuff, all of our original. I think we played one cover, and then and we rocked it. It was fun, and then we got done, and you have to it's like throw and go. You have to hurry up and get all your gear and move out of the way for the next people. And Maggie Kerner was coming up next, and then Samantha Fish. So we finished, and I was moving all my stuff off, and I put my guitar away, and I started to pick it up and I turned around, and Samantha Fish is standing right there, and she's like, "You boys like to rock and roll," and I couldn't. I was just like, yeah, thanks. That's probably my favorite memory. It was really cool. I enjoyed that very much.
Love it.
Oh, yeah, I actually have more new things if you want.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Give me a couple.
So, rapid fire, we are going to work a corporate hospitality tent and viewing platform for each night. So a business or an entity or a group of people can purchase a block. So you would get 40 to 50, and we're still working sort of on the pricing for all this. And you would have your own, as I took this as an idea from the Independence Bowl and their hospitality tents, where you have your own space that's exclusive with all the food and beverage included, and then you'd have an exclusive space that's a viewing platform that's raised up that you can sort of see on the same level as the stage. And we're going to do those every day, and then or at least every evening for each headliner, or I guess headliner plus maybe an act or two. And then we're not using that space during the day, right? So we decided to try to find a way to monetize it. And so on Saturdays, not Sundays, but on Saturdays, we're going to do a jazz brunch with bottomless mimosas and some food in that space and sell tickets to that. We've never done anything other than the $5 ticket. So this is new territory for us. We've never had a VIP or anything like that. So this is basically the Revel just sort of dipping its toe in it. And then also I have been meeting with people all over downtown. Like I said, we've got sort of a group of renegades down there that really want to create a new downtown. or at least a more vibrant one, or maybe recreate the vibrant downtown that we used to have. And so we are working together to program outside of Festival Plaza during our 9 days, and we're encouraging them. For the first time, the Revel is actually looking outward rather than just looking inward. And we want people to throw after parties or counter programming, and we want to work with them to do that. So if we have programming that kind of fits one group of people or a demographic, we want outside of downtown maybe somebody to do something that's counter programmed to that, so that there's still something for everybody. And all the different businesses and venues downtown that we've met with so far are very excited about that. And then in addition to that, we're developing a plan to have a shuttle that goes around downtown so people can get from these places to these places really quickly. Again, that's being customer first. We want to address parking and security. So we're working with SPD to also, in that shuttle route, have additional security in downtown so that people can park essentially anywhere, feel safe about it, get on a free shuttle and ride around downtown and go to the Revel, go to eat dinner, they can go to another concert or another show at the Robinson or, at the Strand and not have to walk, at all and feel like really good about it during the Revel. So I think there's some other smaller things, but those are the big ones. Those are really the big ones.
Those are great, all of them. I love it. All right, so next question. In your new role, as well as in your previous role working for 6 years as the Director of Marketing and Memberships for the Independence Bowl, you have been in the middle of some of the most important events this community has to offer. Talk to me about your views of community. You obviously see the value in bringing people together. Who taught you this sense of community, or how did you come to determine that building community is important?
That's an easy one, because as you started to sort of reach home on the question, the first person that popped in my mind was my grandfather, E.J. Lewis. He was, to a lot of people, one of the most important figures in their life. He coached football at Louisiana Tech for about 30 years, and my grandmother, Dean Lewis, was the first dean of admissions. She was in that role for 30 years as well. And
Ellen's a bulldog, by the way.
That's right. And together they were a recruiting team for Louisiana Tech football and for the university. And I don't know if there were any better ambassadors for that school. There might be, but they're certainly in the upper echelon of people who made sacrifices for and loved the university more than anybody. The community that they built was one built on honesty and love, and I feel like the things that they imparted into me, I did not really learn the lessons until later in life, which any great parent or grandparent hopes to do for their children and their grandchildren. It's interesting now I think back about certain things or certain circumstances and how they handled them, or even specifically what their advice was. It rang true to me in one sense as a young person, but then came back to me later, and there's a deeper layer, and so
give me an example.
Well, my grandfather, there was one time where he talked about balance, and it was because I was kind of, talk about renegade, in not the greatest sense at the time in college, and I had made mistakes, and I was like lazy or oversleep, missed classes, taking me too long to finish, maybe partying a little too much, things like that. And he talked to me about balance and how, when you have stress in your life, you might, turn to other things to balance you out, but ultimately, balance comes from within. It comes from, what your desires, what you want. And, at the time I took that as like, okay, I have to balance my social and my school life so that I can finish. But then later on, and now, and that word came up again when I was at Festival International, actually, and I found myself driving back from South Louisiana after doing that in Jazz Fest, thinking about this one incident that happened there for the director of the Festival International, and he said, "Man, everything's got to have balance," and he handled it in a very mature way. And I started to think about how my grandfather, when he was talking about balance, he didn't just mean get your schoolwork done. He was talking about balance within yourself, but also balance for others, balance for the community around you, and how do you manage maybe an overzealous volunteer versus a business owner who just is trying to do best for their business and create, a sense of harmony in those things. So it's interesting, like, I guess maybe with time and with knowledge and perspective, lessons kind of come back on you, and you relearn them all over again. I think that, I am a very positive person. I told somebody this week that I realize that a lot of the things that I'm telling you are altruistic, but things don't change for the better without some sense of naivety about the way that this all works, right? And if you don't have a positive force who looks at sort of those who've been around for a long time and just feel like this is the best we can do, who some people might not like that, you're just going, well, we could just do better, But I'm new, I'm young, and I have a deep heat sick for those kind of things. I can handle disappointment in my community for a long time to come, so I'm willing to just smile at it and say, no, let's just move past that. We think we've reached the end here of what we can accomplish, but I think we can go a little bit farther. And for me, it's about collaboration, right? So that's why this Revel Plus, which is what I'm calling the downtown slate of experiences that we're going to add to our schedule, is important. It's part of the same idea. It's not just that we need to program everything and everything needs to be about us. I think a lot of times in our community we think that nobody can have our time, right? We can't do things on the same day because we're not big enough to support it. The truth is, especially now in 2022, after being in lockdowns in 2020 and part of 2021, you see multiple events, new things springing up and happening all at the same time, and everybody's still making money. And so I just look at it honestly and say, we can do that, and we should work to support each other. For me, being a downtown and with the Revel, we should fence that off, and we should collaborate with people who are there. The way I see it is that we have an opportunity to claim downtown for the Revel, but we don't have to program all of it. That's money we don't have to spend if somebody's going to have an after party and hire a national talent that fits with what we're doing the same day. It all becomes synergy. And I think I've seen downtown festivals in other cities have success when the businesses and the festival itself work together for a bigger cause. And so that's what I'm trying to inspire into people. When you talk about the importance of community, it's been interesting too. When I was at the Independence Bowl, obviously a lot of people have a lot of opinions in our community, and I started in 2016 was the last year that we had Camping World, and so I kind of said, well, whatever we've done in the past, and this is in September when I started, so it was kind of late in the year. So whatever we've done in the past, we need to do that again. And I got the rest of the stuff renewed, and we sort of kind of went with it. And I asked a lot of questions, and we did the game. And then the title sponsor just didn't treat us very well. They left, and they kind of left a bad taste in everybody's mouth on the way out. It made us look bad, And that was my first year, right? And from there, after that, I kind of said, not again. We're not doing this again, And everything changed for the better after that point. Now, not because of me. I think that the staff and the people at the bowl saw a better vision, and you see, 2 title sponsorships sold while I was there. We changed the way that our brand is viewed. We went through 2 different branding campaigns, one for the foundation, and then 2, actually 3, then 2 for the 2 title sponsors. And you saw the public opinion of the bowl sort of, at least maybe not the whole community is like all gung-ho about going to the Independence Bowl, but for sure a lot of the negativity that would just come, out of nowhere for no reason has gone away. And people have found other targets to put that to. And I think there's different ways to handle it. We actually had, for a season, we had a pretty aggressive strategy where we just wouldn't let people talk trash to us, and we would talk trash back, and it actually had the right effect, because once we began to defend ourselves, to just random negativity with humor, and a little bit of trash talk back, but humorously so, not insulting, other people would come in and say, no, they would come to our defense. It was like, if we didn't stand up for ourselves, nobody else was going to do that, And then you start to find out, oh my gosh, there's other people who feel like I do, that this is This negativity is not really what we want, and I feel like there's a lot of our community does feel that way. We let the fear of, being, also targeted with negativity to keep us silent, in many ways from speaking up. And I think that it takes groups like the Independence Bowl or the Revel and other community leaders to push back on that and say, no, we're not going to stand for that.
I asked a similar question to a different guest recently, and when you're talking, it made me think about it. So play act a little bit with me, but I think I experience what you just said most often, just when people start talking badly about the community, period, not just the Independence Bowl, but have negative opinions about Shreveport-Bossier, negative opinions about this city or this area.
Right.
So, you, Logan Lewis, are at a dinner party with a bunch of prospective Revel donors, and all of them start talking poorly or badly about Shreveport-Bossier. How do you not stay silent? How do you redirect that conversation, or what does that look like? If you're trying to be proactive and suggest a different way of thinking or talking, what does that sound or look like?
Well, I mean, I guess it would depend on the person for me, but I always feel like you get out what you put into it, right? And so throughout, yesterday on the radio, they had this old audio, they played it many times on the radio about, how President Lyndon Johnson just, hated Shreveport because they said bad things about him in the paper. And he wouldn't give us a post office that was allocated in the budget, specifically pulled it out because people talked negatively about him in the newspaper. Now, that was a long time ago, and who knows what and why, there's no telling. But I would say that, the negativity itself only breeds more negativity. And so, I try to find myself being, and this is what I would tell someone, is I try to find myself being a positive force against this negativity and finding other like-minded people to do that as well. One of the things that and this is just my diagnosis about the community itself, is that, at least about that part of it, the negativity, is that, and it's unique to here. Like, I know people are negative across the country, but this unique Northwest Louisiana negativity is, some of it is not unfounded. We are at the other opposite end of the state from where most of our funding in the state goes, and we get forgotten about a good bit. When the business opportunities arise for the state, we're certainly not the first place that they look to put that business, right? And so it can be frustrating to feel like, the other side is the little brother, right, in a lot of ways. But I think that the thing that we always do here that's not good is focus on the things that we don't have and not the things that we do. And if I could compare it to, let's bring up Lafayette, for example, it's one of the things about them that I envy so much, and I also hate it. I hate it. It makes me sick to my stomach. My friends I lived down there for many years. But I envy it so much, is that they have this overblown, outsized sense of their own, like, self-importance culturally, not just to the state, but like to the South. They, like, the center of the South, it happens on Johnson Street in Lafayette, Louisiana, to the people who are from there. And it's like, okay, yeah, obviously there's culture there that's unique, and there's really good food. It's an awesome place to live. I've always had fun when I'm there. But because of that sense of pride and who that they are, what they have, you see a lot of the people that live there participating in community events a lot more. And it's sort of even if they can get mad about like what happens in their community, it's still us against everybody else. Like, you don't talk about our problems, we talk about our problems. Whereas here, it's just, I guess it's in style, or it's common for us, to just invite it upon ourselves and just, continue the spiral of negativity. And we don't have this and we don't have that. And I think that we do have a lot of things, but you have to reframe, maybe the way you think about it or what's important, because again, we can't be Dallas or we're not going to be Austin, but we do have a lot of great things here that we can invest in. And I think our creativity and our people have a history of, standing on the arts and then sort of just like forgetting about it, and it goes away. This is a hayride, and you go back to those times, and you go back to the movie business, and I know that was more state problem than the Shreveport community problem, but the arts continually come as a boon to Northwest Louisiana that we take for granted. And I really feel like, as millennial as it is, the opportunity that I have at the Revel to broaden people's appreciation for the arts is something that, it motivates me every day to get up and go to work.
Perfect. I love it. All right, so we're gonna switch gears for a second. We've hinted at it, but I hadn't tackled it directly. So you currently head up 2 musical acts in your free time. I put free time in quotation marks. Logan and the Legendaries, and Logan Lewis and the Tree Fiddy Trio.
Tree Fiddy Trio.
Okay, talk to me about the local music scene. Is it healthy? Where is it thriving? How could it continue to evolve to become even more vital?
Can we just do that on a whole podcast by itself? Because I could talk about it long enough for sure. I mean, it's not Logan Lewis, it's just Tree Fiddy Trio. I take a secondary role in that, but I actually enjoy it as much, if not more, than my own project, because I get to play the guitar and sing a lot of harmony, and that's really what the magic in the band. I think it's awesome. Acoustic reggae, we bring in non-reggae songs and make them that way, and I'm singing John Hoffman and my voice. They blend really well together. It's a lot of fun. The project that I have, it started because a close friend of mine who I did play music with from time to time in Monroe passed away very unexpectedly at a young age, and he had just recorded some of his music, and I thought, if that was me, that all the songs I've written over the last 10 years would cease to exist because nobody knows them. I need to get on this and actually do something. And so it has been really fun. I've gotten to do a lot of really cool gigs because of it, and I never ever wanted to make it a career. Not that talented. This is my hobby, and it gives me joy. And our local scene, before I get to that, I'll just say I haven't had as much time to play recently. My headspace has not been clear enough to actually book music for myself. I've been booking so much stuff for the Revel that I haven't actually been booking ourselves. The band's kind of mad about it. They're like, are we?
Are you playing in this year's Revel?
Oh no, I would never. No, last year is the last time. Maybe ever. That's kind of nepotistic to me to book myself for the Revel. I would never do anything like that. I would never do anything like that for the Bowl or any event that we ever had. I just feel like it's not the right thing for me to do. But I think after this year, I'll be able to play a little bit more. It's just I'm so nervous about the job and trying to get it.
It's a big job.
Just nail it. And once I see it happen one time and know what we have to do to get home, I'll feel more comfortable about, at least I probably won't stay up late every night, unable to sleep, thinking about work, what I want to do, what we want to do with the Revel. But our local music scene is in an interesting place right now. It's gone through many phases just like the city has. And I know that about 10 years ago, 10 to 15 years ago, it was really running at a very high level. There was lots of venues, lots of bands, and in the years since, those venues have closed, bands have moved on, people have moved away. We've gone through a dry period, and a lot of that is a bigger problem it's just a trend where as we become more and more as music becomes more and more accessible to each person, and each person can curate their own music in a lot of different ways and avenues, the need to go and seek out or to see a live performance has greatly decreased. I mean, people still want to go see their favorite band that they got on Spotify or whatever at a concert hall or even at the Revel, but to go and to like see a local band play a show, the desire is just not there. And overall, typically the music scene itself is cultured out of the nightlife, and the nightlife scene is also greatly diminished from what it was 10 years ago. And that's a trend nationally, it's everywhere. And Shreveport's not immune to that.
And I understand the music piece. Why is the nightlife trend what it is? What do you attribute that to? Aside from COVID, which,
I don't think it's COVID. I honestly think it's the technology. I think it's, there's too many options. Cell phones, on-demand television. A lot of people who, you used to have to go somewhere to be social. Whether that's church or it's a bar or it's like the country club or if it's just the street corner, you had to go somewhere to be social with people. And now you don't have to get up off your couch. And so the whole interaction that happens in the community now happens in your hand. The discussions at work or, in a town hall happen on Facebook neighborhood groups. And so we've got this weird thing going where people are getting that social fix. It's a cheap substitute in my opinion, but they're getting their social fix online. And so the need to go and, at least for people to participate in nightlife, is greatly diminished because of it. And so I think that music as a whole has suffered because of that. And also there's a sense of, because people can call up the music on their own. There are people who just absolutely hate seeing live bands, and more so than it ever has been before, because we've become such a me-driven society. We've crafted these personas for ourselves on the internet that it's all about ourselves. And when you go see a live band, the attention's on the stage, not on me. And most people's preference would be to have a jukebox, so that they can. And sometimes it comes under the guise of, well, I'd rather just be social with everybody else. But there's always been live performances of some type. And I think that the nightlife cultures from the beginning of live music opportunities, and that's not it only place. Restaurants now, and that's one positive thing that we've seen over the last several years, is that more and more restaurants want to get in the live music business. We've got a corner somewhere we can have live music, because people will stay longer, and so that's been a new thing. But I think that right now, I'm starting to see that more and more people are wanting their musicians, their favorite, pop musicians, to actually play instruments, again. And in this region in North Louisiana, I'm really encouraged by, there's a songwriters night that happens the first Wednesday of every month at the Tiki Bar. It starts at 6:30. I'm really encouraged by this. It's happened twice now, but the level of songwriters that have come from Minden and East Texas and South Arkansas. We had somebody come from Missouri who's a very famous, Billy Don Burns, a very famous songwriter, has written songs for Billy Nelson and all those other people, came into town, planned a trip that he was going to do a studio session in the area to come to this songwriters night and play songs for us. And to see that from young people, like really young songwriters, is encouraging, because there's sort of this positive kernel of like everybody's sort of excited about something that's not everybody else knows about yet, and they're building into each other. And always, it's every good music scene always starts with a community of musicians who are pushing each other to be better. Memphis's renaissance with Lucero and Corey Brandon, and all, that's how their music scene. I had a conversation with him about this, that the Memphis, Americana music scene was non-existent until these bands came around, and it was because they were all going to see each other play all the time. They were all friends, and they all pushed each other to be better, and they collaborated a lot, and it became, they sort of were the early adopters and innovators of that movement of attention that people place on that type of music. And so I think we can do that here. It's always going to go through seasons. The number of venues available is a deterrent. That's a problem that we have. We don't have a lot of venues available especially for bands, especially bands that are in our region. Because that's a great thing too. When we can swap with Baton Rouge and we can swap with New Orleans bands, and you can travel to both places and open for each other in your hometowns. And we don't have a lot of places you can do that now. And so I would like to see that return, and hopefully, we'll get back to it at some point.
Love it. All right. So for a number of years now, you've been in a position of selling the Shreveport-Bossier area, whether it was marketing a football game in December and trying to entice people to travel into the area for the event, or convincing musical acts or artists to come participate in the Revel or Farmers Market or one of the other numerous events you oversee. When you're selling our strengths, what do you emphasize? Or in other words, how do you sell this area to someone who has never been here before?
Hospitality. That's the beginning, middle, and the end. I mean, when I was at the Independence Bowl, we talked about this all the time, because people here they don't realize the reputation that the Independence Bowl has across the country, not just with the other bowl games, but also with these schools. We have the best hospitality of any bowl game, and that includes the New Year's Six. We may not be able to buy every player, their own game system to play while they're in town. We have some. Maybe we don't throw as big of parties for the sponsors and the donors as like the Peach Bowl does, but the teams that come here get treated better than they do anywhere else. I can't say how many times we heard from teams that just went to like the Orange Bowl and said, "Man, you guys make them look terrible." At hospitality by the way you treat us. And we go to bowl meetings with all the other bowls, and they jokingly call us a hospitality bowl because we give so much to people who come to visit. We want them to remember us, the people, and not the negativity. I mean, gosh, man, the number of times that the team has come in and at a press conference right before the game said that this has been the most humbling and beautiful experience that we've had. The way that people have treated us here has been exceptional. And then that happens. Somehow the local community, it gets reported. Not that the media, our local media is not reporting, they do. And nobody cares. They're like, yeah. But, you let one guy who's not even really like last year's BYU game, one guy who's like a blogger, not even a real beat writer. He's not even classified to be a beat writer. A guy who actually does not even get credentialed to go to their games, in Provo. So they don't take him seriously. Says negative stuff about Shreveport, and it becomes the topic of conversation right after we just hosted teams who love their stay here. That becomes a topic of conversation. So, I think that we have to, as a community, realize that we have that going for us. Because if your family comes into town, and you live here, you're going to roll out the red carpet for them. You're going to do what you can to show them what's the best place to eat. And we do have a lot of uniqueness here. There's some restaurants that we have here we should be extremely thankful for, because they're not they're the envy of large cities, and I have a couple in my mind right now I just want to take off. But, we create ways to entertain our guests. And if we can continue to build into that, because so much of what our economy here has been built upon since the 90s has been hospitality and entertainment and tourism. It was, when a lot of our manufacturing stuff closed down, it became the new focus. We have to continue to invest in that. Sometimes these new toys come available and we play with it for a couple of years and then we just forget about it. And I think that you have to, as a community, still reinvest in those toys to make them viable. And I think about the facilities that we have at Festival Plaza, Red River District, and the new Comet Park, and I think that they're opportunities. They're not just boondoggles. They're opportunities for us to celebrate. And if I'm selling the area, what I'm selling is the walkability of our downtown, the entertainment that we have on both sides of the river. That's not just Shreveport. I give a lot of love to Shreveport because I live there and I work in Shreveport. The city of Shreveport has moved mountains for the Independence Bowl and for the Revel. And so naturally, I'm going to, talk more about them because I appreciate what they've done for the nonprofits that I've worked for. But Bossier has a lot to offer as well, and you have two sides of the river that maybe people don't necessarily like to cross over, but our visitors do. It's nothing to them, to just cross over the river and go to the river walk, or cross over the river and come to downtown Shreveport. So we have entertainment. We do have some nightlife that's available, but I think our hospitality as people is what really we should invest in more than anything else.
All right, so I'm down to my last two questions for you, and both of them you've hit a little bit, but take them as far and wide as you'd like. The first is, what's holding us back from being one of the great small cities in America?
Yeah, we touched on that in a couple of different ways. Those facilities that I talked about, that we have, the venues that we have, we need to reinvest in them. I think, when you new development is always sexier than revitalization, but I think it's pretty apparent that a lot of our community needs to be revitalized. And I know that building new development is really good for people's excitement, imagination. Maybe it's good for contractors, and it gets our leaders a lot of attention. But I think revitalization is the key. I just saw, what was it? It wasn't Lithuania, but it was a country in Eastern Europe. I can't remember. Anyway, they have like 12 blocks of their downtown that they 10 years ago decided to just pave the streets and not have any cars. And at the time, only 40% of their residents supported it. And now 98% of them could not imagine ever going back, because now this is it took a vision of something different. They revitalized their downtown by making it walkable, making it, there was just a different vision there. And I'm not saying that that's what we have to do with ours. We have highways, U.S. highways that go through our downtown. But I do think that like revitalizing the structures that we do have may not necessarily get the most attention, but over time it will make people feel more pride in their city and participate more. And I think, there's some really great opportunities. We just have to invest in it. And I think what's holding us back is what's holding a lot of other people back right now in terms of the workforce is it's difficult to recruit. My friends at SPAR, I have a good friend that I've made over the last year or two who's a division manager for 3 divisions. So he runs 3 people's jobs, and these are high-level jobs. This is like, second level, third level from the top of SPAR, and he's over 3 divisions with like 600 or 700 people working for him, and his workforce is only operating at about 65% of its capacity because they have a hard time recruiting people to work. And it's not that they don't want to, it's a difference of pay and work, what type of work it is, and the pay. But we have a hard time just investing more in our city employees because it's sort of this cyclical battle of, well, we shouldn't pay them anymore because they're doing a bad job. Well, maybe they're doing a bad job because they're not getting paid enough, and maybe things aren't getting done because you can't get enough people to get the work off the desk to accomplish all of it. And I hear stories of things just like that happening all the time, and we get frustrated as events. I talked to another festival about this yesterday. We get frustrated that there's money allocated for certain projects that we need done, and we can't just get to the point where a contractor or contract's bid out, and the work starts. And then we're 4 years later and we still have, the money's there, it's right there. They can't get to it. They don't have enough people. They don't have enough time. And so, I think we could probably give our community a break from time to time, especially for, the municipal part of it in Caddo and Bossier Parish. You cut them a little bit of slack, until you're actually in it and realize how difficult it has become. Because, the local fast food business, if you're a franchisee owner that owns a bunch of them and you have a hard time, hiring people, the city of Shreveport, city of Bossier is not immune to that either, right? And they have their own challenge. And I think that it's just, I can really feel like the sprawl that we've kind of developed is not terrible, because it's allowed us the opportunity to have micro communities across the greater city region. But we still have to have a place where we come in the center, right? We still have a place where we all come together. And to me, with the Revel, like, that's what I want. I want, it's a big part of my pitch, that I am concerned with creating an atmosphere where people want to come and sit down at a table and stop doing this, start doing some of this, taking pictures, and sit at a table and break bread and just together, because when we do more of that, we find more in common than we do apart. And so we do, I can only, work within the lines of the field that's drawn for me. I can't affect what the city councils or what, the mayors or anybody else is able to do, or how the votes go, or what's the most priority that we place from our community here or there. But I can't affect what the Revel offers to people, and I feel like it is a piece in the bigger picture. It's really weird for me to go from being a person who's been watching on the sidelines for 6 years the chess game being played to now being a piece on it, to be moved around. It's been very odd. It's kind of scary sometimes, because I don't like that type of attention, or that responsibility is a lot to handle. But what holds us back the most, I really do believe, is that we just don't invest enough in ourselves, and we don't support ourselves or each other enough. I find a lot of value in people who can do things that I cannot, and I find a lot of value in people who maybe, that's the other thing that we, the Independence Bowl and the Revel have started to do. This is something that's important to me, so this is why we started to do it, is we may not always see eye to eye with certain people, but they can still be useful, right, to you, and you can be useful to them. Not focusing on what we don't like or the differences, but where do we connect? And there have been relationships that have gone sour based on the first meeting, with the Independence Bowl, for example, and somebody, they were like, we're never going to work with them. And we found a way to find a place for that person to sort of thrive, and who once was, a community pot stirrer for the bowl and didn't say anything very good, became one of our biggest allies. And that happened multiple times with multiple people. And finding that common ground is really what is going to take it to the next level. I don't know, I'm kind of rambling a little bit, because those are all things I'm passionate about. I'm trying to think about specific instances without naming any names.
No, that's all perfect.
But yeah, I guess mainly overall, I just, I find myself being overly positive, even though it's difficult sometimes. It really is. And I know you're not going to change some people's minds. I know that there is an element of, the community that wants us to be what we were in 1977. And that's not realistic anymore. And can't do anything about that, but we can affect now. and we just have to focus on what we can work on.
And my last question is, again, we've touched on a lot of this, but what will propel us forward in the years to come?
As a community?
Yep.
Our nonprofits, I think our nonprofits will propel us forward. That's another place. That's another community, just like the music community, that it can inspire change in the right way. And collaboration between nonprofits I've seen become a lot more prevalent than it was maybe when I first got here in 2016. And maybe that's just because of where I'm at now. Because while I was in, nonprofits mostly dealing with like sports and part, community, helping your community. Now I'm more involved in nonprofits that are, centered around the arts, and then also the ones that are involved in the community. So I kind of seen like a wide range of them, and I see more and more of them working together on things, which I find to be inspiring. The Independence Bowl, I got to give them props. They, and I was there when we developed it, but it was a conversation we had coming back from the Grand Canyon as a staff from a trip that we went on, and it was this First and Give flag football tournament where we would partner with nonprofits, we would partner with businesses or groups of people who cared about a nonprofit to play flag football, and they put up dues that would then be donated to their charity, and they kind of sort of played for more money, and the more games they won, the more that their nonprofit won. And you see a lot of people who are, they work at it, or they volunteer at a nonprofit, or they donate money, and they're all playing together for good, Give for Good, the community foundation, brings nonprofits together in a way that is really cool, and I never really paid attention to it as much in the Independence Bowl because we never really made any money, and we still don't at the Revel either, though there are some that make a lot more than what we do, but I've just been a little bit more involved in it, and I think what takes us forward are, like I was looking at this, all the different groups here, and there's just a lot, in this drawing that you have, and there's a lot of good there, that it makes me feel good to look at all those groups and say this is the work that's being done in our community. So maybe it's just because it's present and it's right here, but yeah, I think if we should invest in those too. Our facilities and our community, we should invest in them. This is a way to do it. Is to work with our nonprofits, because everything from the Y to CADA and like I mentioned, the Community Foundation, there's a lot of really good being done there. Let's focus on that too. I think that will help us get there. I don't know if that really answers the question or not, but I just wanted to point that out because it's making me feel really good today.
Good. Well, I think you're going to make a lot of people feel good just listening to you, being around you at the Revel. Appreciate and it. At Farmers Market, at CORK, at BREW.
The Farmers Market is awesome. I had to give a little pitch to that.
Yeah, please. I'm going to be there this Saturday.
It is so neat to me. I think it's probably the most community event that we have. And to explain that a little bit better, like if the comment section on a local news page is like the most negative part of a community water cooler, then the farmers market is the exact opposite of that, because there are people who would never go eat at the same restaurant together that are shopping together, and there's sort of this energy there that is, it just feels really good. I don't know, maybe it's just because it's in the morning, it's not so hot, and everybody's like, oh man, we're actually being social right now and it's not 1,000,000 degrees outside, but it just has a different thing to it, There's a little music and a cooking demonstration, and it's really good produce. There's we take SNAP benefits, at the farmers market, and we have a sponsor that has put up a match up to $20,000 for the summer. For anybody that every dollar of SNAP that they spend, they get $1. To spend on things at the farmers market. It supports small business in so many small business in so many ways, and there's just sort of this like wholesome, healthy attitude about the whole event that I don't know if there's anything else like it. And I love that. I love the fact that it's diverse and that there's all different kinds of people, and everybody just seems to be like in a really good mood. Even though on the back end, if you don't know, dealing with all the vendors is not fun. And Emery Gentry, who works for us, is a saint for dealing with them. Because I couldn't do it. But people don't see that. What they see is, on the front end it's just really, it's peaceful and it's wholesome. And I love that. I really, if people haven't been, they need to go. It's just such a cool thing.
And tell me when it is. It's
every Saturday, and it starts at 7:30 in the morning, and it goes all the way until 12:30. So you have like a couple of different crowds. You have the crowd that's there at 7:30 waiting for it to open, specifically to get the best produce. They want to get the pickings of the absolute best tomatoes, the absolute, And then you have a crowd that comes in a little bit later, who's coming in sort of perusing, may get one or two things. They want to drink a coffee, get a donut, walk around, sort of get their day started in a good way, and then it kind of transitions into people who are just sort of popping in, and they might come and get something to eat like closer to lunch, because we have a lot of food vendors there too, and the food is awesome. The food there is really, really good. But we're going to be doing, that's another new thing. We're going to announce it probably today, but this weekend is our Let the Good Times Roll Festival edition of the Farmers Market. It's actually officially part of their event schedule. And we booked the entertainment for that.
And when is that? What time is that?
That's this weekend. The festival's after, so it's later in the day.
Okay.
But we're just sort of a part of the weekend.
Okay.
The weekend's activities, the Juneteenth weekend activities, and Let the Good Times Roll Festival is promoting the farmers market, and they'll all a lot of their people will be there. Some of their food vendors are coming to get produce and stuff like that. And then next week we are going to have mimosas at the market. This is the first time we've ever done it, but every time it's mentioned, people were, what date is that? So it's June 25th. We're going to do it once a month, and we're going to have some little twists. We'll put it on it in July and the same thing in August. But for this one, we'll have rosé and mimosas for sale as a fundraiser for the Revel. I'm really excited about that too, because that's not something that we've ever had, and just knowing this whole pitch I made for the farmer market and what that is, introducing this to it will be a really cool element. I think a lot of people are going to show up for the first time because of it. So we're excited. It's really cool.
Well, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate all you're doing. It's amazing. Keep it going. You're inspiring.
Thanks,
and looking forward to the Revel this year. Looking forward to the farmers market on Saturday, and looking forward to doing more and more with you.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Logan.
Thanks.